Good evening, folks. This is Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics Unfiltered. We're back on. Little technical difficulty. Tonight, I have Michael J. Khader, former City Council President, with me doing an interview live. Join us. Good evening, folks. This is Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics Unfiltered. Tonight, guest Mike Khader, former City Council President, to discuss everything with Freddie Vasquez. Tonight, folks, get your questions ready. Did you pop your popcorn? We're here, folks.
Hey.
Good evening, folks. I'm Freddie Vasquez. We are about to get it popping tonight. This is Basement Politics. Go ahead, hit it one time.
Let's get it popping, Freddie.
I'm letting Mike Khader have a little fun there with my sound effects. Let's get it popping. I'm showing them all the different ones. We're on the pad. Folks, thank you for joining me. I'm Freddie Vasquez, and tonight I've been waiting for this interview. I've got my man to the right here, Michael Khader, former City Council President of the City of Yonkers. Thank you for coming on the show. Welcome. I got to give you a round of applause. I got to give you my folks.
Thank you, Freddie. Thank you.
Listen. I know you saw earlier. I know you were on earlier with the Yonkers Voice, and that's cool. I wasn't really upset about it, but I just, what's up with that, man? I saw that you guys spoke about me a little bit. So tell me about that interview. You came to me and said, Freddie, I don't want you to feel, but I said, I'm good. You don't owe me anything, right?
No, Freddie, great way to open up an interview, but I appreciate that. And it's very a simple answer. Yonkers Voice, I've had a relationship with, and we actually even discussed it. We met back during 2017, and we made in contact. And he asked for the exclusive, and he was, very thorough in following up and making sure that he had first dibs, and I committed to it. And to be quite honest, if you asked me first, I would have committed to you. No, it's nothing ulterior about it.
Listen, and people should know if they know me already, been watching the show, I don't really take a lot personal, and I completely understand. I don't mind it. I actually prefer prime time, and we are on prime time. So thank you for joining me tonight, this evening. How's everything?
Things are well. Things are well. It's been a little, busy couple of weeks, and I'm finally excited, to be here and see your studio. You have a very good operation, and I could see why you're growing. With the sound effects and your and your presentation. It requires time.
Absolutely, it requires a lot of time, but thank you. I appreciate that. I really work hard to bring information to the people, right? And that often means that I have to go different places, have to go to people and find them, right? But I heard you speaking about, or not you, but the Yonkers Voice, in that, seemed like he tried to get you into a corner and get you to agree with him that I was a stalker. And I'm not sure why I was even brought up. I think it was such an important interview that it was really a waste of that time, that he had with you. But I'm not sure. What was that? What do you think he was doing there?
I'm not sure, and, as an interview, we always ask, okay, what are we going to be discussed? So, you never are prepared for what's going to come out. I'm not sure I could only predict what's going to come out of your mouth. And Freddie, I'll say straight out, and this is not just for you or for, bloggers and people on websites and fake accounts, real accounts, supporters, non-supporters. Harassment, cyberbullying, no matter who you are, is improper, unethical, and many times it's a crime. No one should be doing it. But that being said, I wasn't going to go down that lane. Obviously I am familiar with you. We have spoken.
Right.
And, while I do appreciate, what you're trying to do and your fan base and the information that you're putting out there, it's something important. Let's clear And I want
right.
let's clear the pink elephant in the room and get me your ID because I want to make sure. Is your last name Vasquez or is it Khader?
I'm starting to think it's Khader. I mean, some people are saying it so much, and that's what I wanted to go into next, right? And that's kind of why I even brought that up. I mean, honestly, I didn't want to talk much about that, but I did want to mention it because I wanted to talk about the fact that people or certain people, right, want to make you believe or be perceived that you are behind me. The Khaders are sponsoring Freddie. They're paying Freddie. They're giving me all the information, and I speak to you all the time.
That's a false narrative, and I don't want you or your listeners to fall through that because there are other websites and other blogs and other outfits and that do the exact opposite, and they don't get that criticism.
Right.
Because you're trying to shed light, you march to a beat of a different they're going to try to create your narrative.
Right.
Don't make the error that I made. Continue to shine, continue to uplift, and more importantly, continue to expose.
I appreciate that, and so I just wanted to make that very clear. But again, like I said this before on my podcast, people are going to believe what they want to believe. We can talk about it till we're blue in the face. So let's move on. We've said it. He said it publicly. I've said it many times publicly. And so at this point, I think we should just put that to bed. And now I want to move on. Let's get to the good stuff.
The bochinche.
The bochinche. I'm a bochinchero, right? According to
hey, Pepsi.
Pepsi says Khader for mayor.
Wow. We're just getting right into it.
Let's get right into it. Khader for mayor. Khader for mayor. Khader for mayor. How does that sound?
You can't make decisions on emotion. It requires thought. It requires commitment, and it requires sacrifice. And Fred, as we see here, we got my better half, my crutch, my partner. My wife Rena here. Please give her a round of applause, everyone.
Oh yeah. Shout out to Mike Khader's wife Rena. She's here with us. First audience,
Thank you. But on a serious note, I am exploring all opportunities, as I said earlier, and I want to reiterate, to your followers and fans, public service should be a privilege. That's not automatically given to everyone. Backroom deals shouldn't decide who your elected officials are. I know I can lead. I know that I am qualified to do the job, but I cannot be selfish, and I have to consider the sacrifices that will involve for my family.
Right.
Particularly the hurt and the damage that happened during my past election.
And I want to get to that. I'm glad you mentioned that. We went through a lot, right? And I did speak to you when it was around the time it was first happening, and and I was speaking to your brother, and they were making me aware of some of the things that you were receiving. Your wife was receiving text messages, phone calls, mailers, your neighbors, and tell me, how was that on your family? Because people want to say that Mike Khader is simply bitter, right? And I'm going to get people, oh, he's always defending. No. People say Mike Khader's bitter. He's a sore loser. He lost. That's it. Just move on. But I don't buy that. I don't subscribe to that idea. And I tell you why. The man was assassinated politically. I mean, his political career, right? But not just his political career, but his overall reputation, which, flowed right into his private career, right? Or his career outside of politics, his law career, which was damaged somewhat by ruining his reputation. And then the investigation, right, that they launched and that's still currently ongoing. I mean, this isn't just a sore loser or I'm bitter. You guys took a lot from me. You guys put me and my family through hell and are still continuing to do so. Tell me about that. What did your family go through? Your wife?
In a democracy, in an elected democracy, there's always a transition of office. I am absolutely not bitter about the election results. In fact, the day after the election, I called the current council, Lakeisha Collins Bellamy, congratulated her. Okay. I offered help. I posted on social media the next day. This has zero to do with sour milk, but that's the narrative they're trying to frame.
Right.
They have deep pockets. They have certain print publications and certain online blogs under control, so they create the narrative. And what you do is when you constantly repeat something over and over and over again, it just
it becomes the truth.
It must be true.
Right.
On the contrary, I'm actually in a better place and space right now. The constant threats, intimidation, the psychological manipulation, borderline blackmail.
Right.
It takes a toll. It'll take a toll
Sure.
on anyone.
I would imagine.
And what I needed to do was unplug and focus on myself, because if I'm no good for myself, that means I'm no good for my family.
Right.
And I needed to reassess and take time with my wife, my kids, my parents, my brothers, sisters. As you know, we have a huge family.
Very big family, very big protected family. I may add, and John Khader
it comes in handy sometimes.
He's been very vocal. Lauren also, shout out to you. She's also expressed her opinions. She's even now being blamed for the exposing Yonkers corruption. I'm like, no, it can't be them. They will tell you to your face. They have no problem with that, right?
Lauren, a single mother raising two boys.
Right.
Lauren, if you're listening now or live or whatever it is, continue to shine, continue to uplift. And, you along with Rena, I wouldn't have been able to go through everything without your support and love. Your force of good. Continue.
Speaking of Lauren and John, they got blamed for your re-election loss, right? Your lawsuit alleges that you lost that election. Well, part of the lawsuit alleges that you were attacked by a committee for a better Yonkers, which we'll get into, and all this money that was put behind this committee up against you and stuff. But those who are on the other side say, Freddie, it was because of Lauren, it was because of John that Mike lost his election. They blame your two siblings.
Let me say, well, you mentioned two things. One, the lawsuit speaks for itself. It's something that I took personal time in writing and developing, and I stand by it. I'm not going to try this case on social media,
right,
on any blog. The one thing that the regime and these political operatives will have to answer to is in a court of law.
Right.
Well, they don't want to get to a court. Let's be clear also. They don't want to get to a court.
Well, we're going to get to that in a second.
But more important, you mentioned something very important, right? You mentioned my brother John, and you've spoken to him. You've spoken to my sister Lauren. I think you've spoken to many of my family members extended, and you've spoken to. We all have different personalities.
Yeah.
I don't carry my brother's cross. My brother doesn't carry my cross. But if anyone knows my brother, he's a straight shooter. You love him or hate him. There's no neutral.
Right.
It's
like me.
You
either like me or you don't. Right. It's pretty much who I am.
Well put. You never walk out of a meeting or a room with John and not know where you stand with him.
Right.
That being said, as much as I love him, he could be rough around the edges, but his intention is pure,
right,
and he attempts to put his best foot forward. But because he's loud and he's burly and he could suck up oxygen, that's who he is.
Right.
And John, you also continue to shine. Don't back down. And if they're coming after you, that means you're doing something right. Similarly, Freddie, continue to do something. But here's where it is. For somebody that doesn't know John, it's easy to say, oh, yeah, he's loud.
Right.
And it's an easy excuse.
Yeah.
It's easier to sell, his brother. It's easier to sell his sister. It's easier to sell his vote. It's easier to concoct.
So you're saying that, they want to paint it as if, your brother and Lauren, because they were very vocal, they were, more out there, I guess. And so they want that. Is that what you're saying? They put it on them. It had nothing to do with the negative mailers and all the, negative.
You mean the negative mailers that they sent out?
Yeah, that they sent out. It had nothing to do with that, right? It was all had to do with Lauren and John. And I'm just asking because that's what, and I want to give you, the other side. That's what was told to us, right? Or told to me, I should say, right? That, that had to do with it. But I don't buy that, right? And that's what I've been talking about on my podcast. And that's why people say that's Freddie. Well, not people, it's a small group. Yonkers Concerned Democrats, they say he's Freddie Khader, right? He's Freddie Khader. Because I speak the truth, right? I speak the truth, right? Freddie's followers are smart. We know what's up. We don't bend or break nor fall for crappy lies. That's right. right? And so I saw what happened to you, right? In my eyes, they took you out, and it was a lot to do with some of the things you're saying in the lawsuit, right?
Well, hindsight's 2020. You could use Monday morning quarterbacking.
Right.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. By the time I recognized the manipulation, it was too late.
Too late.
And you and I actually discussed this. I remember one time you actually came to my office unannounced, and you're like, Mike, show the leave, show the checks,
Right.
and
I want to talk about that also. Yeah.
That's still an open matter. But I want your listeners, who's going to listen to this after. It's in my left bottom hand drawer, and if I showed it the next day, you think this was going to go away? There was that we know of $200,000 raised to make sure that I don't win. They needed to create a narrative, and that's what this was all about.
Right.
This was a politically motivated stunt. This was, the Inspector General Liam, who I beat, is now looking into my matters. He should look inward. There's that old Michael Jackson song, Man in the Mirror.
And we have to, I have to make that a point, right? I want people to know that who may not know or be familiar with politics, because I'm really trying to get more people to engage in the political process here in the city of Yonkers, right? So that's one of my hopes. And people may not know that the individual, the Inspector General that's currently investigating or in charge of the investigation or spearheaded the investigation is Liam McLaughlin, who you beat, who he was the former city council president. You defeated him in 2017, right? Correct?
That's correct.
And in the lawsuit, you allege that Liam told you at that time that you better play nice.
Well, again, Freddie, I want you to respect the complaint. I think you went.
Yes, I read it. That's why I'm saying it.
I typed that complaint out. I signed the verification. I stand by the allegations. I stood quiet. Let this play out. Let them do their shenanigans. Let them continue to try to kneecap me, and try to find some dust. And they're going to have to justify the big circus that they did.
So was that your strategy? I mean, because some people say, and even I said this, right? I said that last year, that you didn't come out fighting. You didn't come when they were, you should have been more aggressive, right? And you weren't aggressive enough. And then after the election and you had lost, it seemed like you kind of faded away. And so what started to develop was a perception of you that you weren't tough, you weren't aggressive enough, and then you lost and you went away with your tails between your legs, right? Do you think you could have been more aggressive? Should you have punched back harder?
Well, during the campaign, being a newcomer to politics is the first re-election. We've had some of the best consultants, and the general rule of thumb is you don't respond to negative attacks. Right. You don't respond to the gutter politics. And I tried focusing on the issues that mattered most. And while they wanted to go in the gutter, and I mentioned that, this election was never about the issues.
Right.
This election was, let's suppress the vote. Let's make the voters so disgusted. Let's confuse the voters, keep them home, and then let's make sure our machine and our apparatus come out there. And anyone that could be bought off with a job, anyone that could be bought off with a promotion, anyone that could be bought off with a contract, let's get them on board.
Right.
So this was systemic. This didn't happen with the flip of a switch. This was planning in the making.
It was plotted. I mean, it was thought of, and like I said, because I said this on a podcast earlier or yesterday. The lawsuit, you don't allege in the lawsuit that they did this to you because they were afraid that you were going to run for mayor or that you would become mayor. But I say that, right? I believe that is the real reason, and not so much the fact that you oppose their, redevelopment of rezoning plan and things like that over there in Ludlow, because they didn't need you anyway to go along with them, right? You were being outvoted anyway, and it was passing anyway.
They had the votes for anything.
So this was about just keeping you from becoming mayor one day or next year, possibly.
Follow the money, folks. That's all. Follow the money.
And what he means by that, at least in my opinion, and this goes back to the lawsuit, right? And let's go there for a minute with Ginsburg. They're named in the lawsuit, Ginsburg Development and the Committee for Better Yonkers. The Committee for Better Yonkers, I spoke about that recently, is a committee that's funded largely by developers, one of them being Ginsburg. So when you say follow the money, is it because developers wanted you out? They saw you as, an obstacle in getting their way, their plans, their developments up, and even probably using taxpayer money to do a lot of it, right?
I don't know why the developers gave the money. I think that's a question that you should ask them.
Right.
I can't answer for the developers, but we know what the committee did, and that's why they're being named.
Right. And the Committee for Better Yonkers, I spoke about them, is a political action committee that was funded largely by developers and real estate lawyers. And so I showed you the expenditures on a podcast recently. And in the lawsuit, again, going back to the lawsuit, Rose Press Inc. is named in there as a defendant, as well as I forgot what that person that. Let's talk about Rose Press Inc. They the ones that printed up the mailers, the flyers, and all that stuff. It's owned by a gentleman by the name of Pat Masando, who is the brother-in-law of the mayor, right? They received a lot of the money.
You read the complaint pretty
I did my homework, absolutely, right? And I read it on the podcast, so people, may be familiar with it. And, Pat being the brother-in-law of the mayor, receiving all this money from the Political Action Committee, maybe even if it was for legitimate services, right? Printing and stuff like that, right? But it seems like they just spend most of that money just attacking you. The almost $200,000 that they raised.
That we know of. We're not even talking about the dark money.
What is that? Tell me about that. I didn't read that part. What's the dark money? What does that mean?
Dark money means money that's not accounted for, and the straw donations that happen.
Man, interesting. I want to get back to, let's go back to when you were city council president, right? Sure. One of the things I've said, and this is why people always say Freddie Khader, is because I always praised you as the guy that authored the affordable housing ordinance that wanted to increase the required, affordable housing percentage to 20 from 10%. You were the one that authored it. You pushed that. Shanae Williams, also, you approached her, I believe, and so she can maybe help you get it passed. Tasha Diaz also jumped on that. Many people may not know that. You, the guy that really wanted affordable housing. Tell me about that.
During 2017, there's a housing crisis.
Absolutely.
Not just in Yonkers, not just in Westchester, New York. It's across the country.
Yes.
Rents are going up. People are literally being, evicted. So it's a priority. We're the third largest city, and I remember speaking to a lot of community groups. What's your position on this? And we wanted to make it a priority. And the question was, what's the right number for affordable housing, or do you go for, fixed income? And it's on paper, it's fairly simple. We need more affordable housing. Right. That way, the residents of Yonkers could benefit. But clearly, the developers are in the business of making a profit. And God bless you.
Right.
You're in the business of making money. But it was my position: if you're taking tax dollars, pilots, from the IDA, then you need to give back to the city.
Right.
And that became a major contention. It became a major contention for the emergency, the call to action for our residents without permanent housing, for the lack of jobs. And it was a constant reminder that it needs to be addressed. So yes, the original version, was drafted, came out of office, but it was an important issue for many of my council colleagues. And I think at one point or another, everyone had edits and revisions and stuff. It was a work in progress, for lack of a better word. And, it was put, through political shenanigans, in a committee, that stalled it. And then obviously we had the COVID. So there was a lot of reasons why.
Well,
if I may, but there was a lot of reasons why it took long, right? But it had nothing to do with me not supporting it.
Right.
And when we finally had it passed, it was vetoed.
Right. It was by Tasha Diaz, who is now the majority leader, who, in my opinion, became the majority leader because she did veto it. And so this is going back to the Committee for Better Yonkers. Why did they fund this committee, the developers? Because they didn't want the 20% increase. They didn't want to have to be required to make 20% of the units in those luxury developments for affordable housing. Mike wanted that. You're the only one that genuinely, I think, wanted it. Maybe Shanae. I just think Shanae's not really, she doesn't have, she's scared. You got to see her when she was trying to ask Wilson Kimball a question, right? But you stood your ground, right? And so you were the one that had to go because you wouldn't back down.
Yeah, you got to understand something. I am only one vote. So you have to you have to build a coalition, and I was able to, but unfortunately, coalitions are they last as long as a cup of coffee.
Right. Especially in politics, right?
Exactly.
I mean, the majority leader was in your home, cooking with your children, and all that. Now and then she was throwing you under the bus the next minute, and then killing the affordable housing ordinance. That's unbelievable. Now, let me ask you, how was it as a city council president, working, within the city council here of Yonkers, working with, Corazon, Shanae, and, the other colleagues in the council? How was that experience?
Well, what you see on the outside, no one sees how the sausage is made.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if you ever heard of that.
I can understand it, yeah.
And there really is no onboarding. Usually when you go to work in a company, here's a policy, here's the rules,
right.
Here's what you have to do. It's almost the requirements to get elected or even to get on the ballot are so minimal, and then winning is just, who gets, who has a better turnout
right.
or who raises the money. But once you go on, there is no orientation. There is no, remember in Barnes and Nobles, the yellow book,
right.
IB,
Yeah. No video to watch before,
There's nothing to teach you how government runs.
Right.
And I'm not embarrassed to say I came as a political newcomer. And so there was a little on-the-job training when it came to politics. And I relied on the wrong people to help me out. I felt that I had a good grasp of the law. I felt I had a good grasp of the issues that mattered most for the PTA moms, for the small businesses, for homeowners. And that's why I tried to introduce legislation. We're lawmakers.
Right.
And I tried introducing legislation at the local level. While I did introduce, resolutions, for the state and sometimes for Congress, and it's a token of effort. They're without teeth. I mean, you could literally make it wallpaper.
It's like a proclamation.
Yeah, it's a gesture without,
right.
It's not authoritative. But we as lawmakers at the local level should be worried about making local laws
right.
and ordinances at the local level.
Absolutely.
And
that's why I criticize, people say, why you go to Tasha? Well, again, it's not same few people. And it's because her job is not to distribute food. Her job is to legislate, right? And one of the important things that we needed to get accomplished was a housing ordinance that was going to make some kind of an impact in this housing crisis we have here in the city. And you're right, it's a national housing crisis, but they yet to do that. They failed at that. I mean, they failed at pretty much everything except distributing food. And thank God for Feeding Westchester, because they would have failed at that too.
Well, here's the concern that I have. I'm pretty comfortable for political expediency. There will be an amendment to the current affordable housing. I'm pretty confident to say that 10% will increase. But here's what the issue: there's not enough land. There's not enough land. Right. And all these developments are going to be grandfathered. So while
right.
we're building these these multi-hundred unit, I think there's even something close to 1,000 units coming up.
Yeah, it's on Buena Vista 900 unit luxury development.
So here's what's going to happen. They're going to say, okay, this law takes effect such and such a date. Meanwhile, anything that's already been submitted right. is protected.
And that's what I said. I said, they're stalling it. Why they haven't come up with the housing ordinance yet? I mean, it's been a while now. That should have been their first, priority. Because again, like you said, they want to stall it so these developments could go up, and then their grandfathered, they don't have to include them at that point, right? So, I want to ask you. I wanted to ask you. I had a question in mind and I totally forgot. But anyway, so I want to ask you about the go back to the lawsuit, right? You
want to go back there?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to. We don't have to go back to the lawsuit.
I just think that to maintain the integrity of the lawsuit,
right?
like I said, if I signed the paperwork, I signed the verification,
Right.
I'm telling your followers, I typed it out, I'm representing it, I stand by it.
Right.
And, you know, the reason why I wanted to
Well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
the reason why I wanted to represent myself, for two reasons. I'm a trial attorney. I know how to conduct
So you're
discovery
representing yourself.
because no attorney is going to know the nuances, the
Well,
shenanigans.
you know, they say that an attorney who represents himself has a fool for a client.
Yes, I think that Abraham Lincoln may have said that, but
I'd have to say that.
yeah, no, of course.
Right.
But and I pondered it. You know, do I hire somebody? But there's so many nuances in this. You know, this is like a 3-card Monty.
Right.
You know, to win a 3-card Monty, you got to know how to play 3-card Monty.
Right. I mean, honestly, and even here in Westchester and Yonkers, you know, I mean, you have to almost represent yourself. I mean, can you trust anyone to represent you? I mean, you know, you had a consulting company for your election campaign, right? When you did your re-election, it was called Red Horse. And this is not you saying, this is just me saying, I think they didn't have your back. I don't think they were, you know, you can't trust anyone. You can hire people, but somehow so many people, lawyers, businesses are always connected to this system, right? And so you got to represent yourself almost if you want to actually if you want an attorney that's going to, you know, be for you 1,000%. But the reason I want to talk about the lawsuit, you know, more so about zoning, right? And so we're seeing a lot of zoning changes happening in Yonkers. You know, 44 Hudson Street, on Hudson Street, there's that 44 Hudson project going up. They had to change zoning laws in order to make that happen. But before they changed zoning laws to make that happen, they had to also remove and replace a few individuals from the zoning board who would not approve it. Do you see these zoning changes, right, as something of a problem? Is there something that we should be concerned with there?
Absolutely. I'm never opposed to development. But what we have to be strategic, we have to be tactical about it, and it has to be smart development. We need to ask who's truly benefiting.
Right.
Because, you know, if we could go jump in a car, you know, and let's go drive down to South Broadway. Let's go drive down to Warburton, Ashburton. And I want to ask that local bodega owner, are you benefiting from this?
Right.
I want to go ask that mom that's living in Section 8 house, are you benefiting from this?
Right.
I want to go ask that husband and wife that are holding 3 jobs just to make ends meet. Are you benefiting from this?
Right.
That's the problem that I have with the issue. You have the haves and the have-nots. And the vast majority of this city is a minority majority city.
Right.
The numbers don't lie.
Right.
And they're not reaping the benefits the way they should be reaping the benefits.
Right. I agree.
The numbers don't lie.
I agree. I mean, you know, this woman, you know, Pearl Costello says, are they going to do affordable housing for disabilities? And I know they were doing a couple of senior homes, but there's so many people that are actually in need of housing. People recognize me now from doing basement politics, and they stop me in the street and they say, you know, I just got stopped yesterday. They kicked my cousin out, or they evicted my cousin. My cousin had to move because they raised the rent. And this is in the Nodine Hill section on Ash Street, right? They're raising the rents in the Nodine Hill section, which is probably one of the poorest communities in Yonkers. That neighborhood, and they had to leave, right?
That neighborhood has been neglected, and it's only getting worse. And it's problematic that one of the worst neighborhoods, unfortunately, in the city of Yonkers, rents are increasing in one of the worst neighborhoods.
That's my point.
And I want, if anyone lives there, this is not a sign of disrespect for the Nodine Hill section.
No,
I grew up in that neighborhood. You know, I had aunts and uncles that lived on Linden, Beach, Oak, Ash. And
I can vouch for that because the Khader family also lived on Buena Vista, where I grew up.
BVA.
BVA right there. And it wasn't peaches and cream, all right, growing up there in Buena Vista. You know, it was rough. It was very rough. And so, you know, but yeah, you know, there's just a need for a lot to change here in the city of Yonkers. And for the sake of time, I want to move quickly over to education, right? And I want to ask you this. You're the former city council president. You know, you have experience with this. I want to hear what you have to say. Our schools are in horrible shape. I mean, literally, some of the buildings could probably be condemned, honestly. What is going on? What was happening while you were city council president, you know, in terms of the schools and getting them, you know, up to par, renovating them, building new ones, you know, where there's one being built, but what was happening then?
You know, Freddie, you raise a very interesting point about the way Yonkers is structured. You know, many people, I hear the term Yonkers is a form strong mayor of government, right?
Yes.
So the way the city is structured, it's by charter, and even through the education law. The issue that we have is this part-time city council that really doesn't have the resources nor the training in-house to properly succeed is obligated to make two of the most important decisions. When people say, what are the two most important decisions of the city council? It's two things, and we touched upon them. One, vote on a $1.3 or $1.2 billion, B, folks, not
billion,
$1 billion budget, and for zone changes. Those truly are the two most important things. Ribbon cuttings, flag raisings, and proclamations. That's retail politics.
Yeah,
right?
I've been doing a lot of flag raising lately.
And listen, unfortunately, that is part of it. We call it retail.
Sure. You want to connect with the community and stuff, but you definitely have to focus on what's important. And you mentioned, zoning changes and stuff.
That's where it is. So I remember for 4 years, and I would literally butt heads with the board of trustees because we would get this big budget. It was literally books with papers, and the information doesn't jump out at you.
Right. You have to go through it.
You have to go through, and you have to know what you're looking for.
Right.
And
what you're reading.
For what you run, what you're looking for reimbursements, what's for staff, what's optional, what's contractual. It takes time, and I want to be able to say that it took me time.
Right.
To understand the budget, and I've had help because that's how complicated it is.
Sure.
It's a strength to know your weakness. Like, hold on a second, what does this mean? What does that mean? And then once you understand how the budget is produced, then you could understand it.
Right.
So numbers, and I could pretty much tell you there are certain councilmen that don't understand. The budget.
How are you going to be effective, right, for the people if you don't understand what it is you're looking at, right? And this is something that I've said on my show before. Tasha Diaz, the majority leader, is the chair of the education committee. But how qualified is she to really sit in that position? And how qualified are they as a whole to really go through a budget, right, that big?
I'm not going to disparage any former colleague.
Right.
That's.
Well, I'll make it general, right? I mean, in order to do an effective job, you have to have, you have to be capable, right? You have to be listen, I understand finance because I got an MBA, but I don't expect everyone that didn't go down to Wall Street or maybe that studied finance to understand, some of the things that I do, right? So that's what I'm saying. Do you have to kind of have some of this knowledge, right, to really be effective
it's numbers. I think that while it's a benefit, I think that you have to make a commitment that I'm going to learn this.
Right.
So I think anyone can learn it. It just takes time. Some people are going to get it quicker. You mentioned if someone has a little finance background or budgeting, probably be a little more easier. And for someone that doesn't, but it's definitely doable. You have to make a commitment to it. I want to understand this.
And I say that, and this is why I say that. And not to, because I don't have to bash anyone. I mean, if you watch some of the meetings, they do it to themselves. I mean, honestly. And the reason why I bring it up is because I want people who are going to vote next year to understand that you have to vote for people who are intellectually capable of understanding this stuff, so they're not manipulated by someone, right? So, they are effective. That's all I'm just saying. I think that we have to make sure we vet people who we voting for a lot better because we haven't been doing the best job here. So let me go to some of the things that people are saying here. Look, your sister, hey, Lauren, that's not true. I told a certain individual that he's playing both sides and causing problem within the community, Black and Arab community. I don't even know what that was about. People get into these, their own comments and stuff in the comment section. So that may be something like that. Khader was legitimately working for the Yonkers people, and that is why they wanted him out. Everyone else in City Hall has different agendas. I like to see Khader give Spano a challenge. And that's what a lot of people are asking me. That's what I get calls. Freddie, is Khader running? Freddie, is Khader running? Is Khader running? I tell them, yeah, he's running.
I said this afternoon that you're not my spokesperson, and while
I make he does it. I take it upon myself.
You're so convincing.
I take it upon myself.
You're very convincing.
Yeah, I apologize.
No. Freddie, like I said, I'm exploring. I'm creating an exploratory committee. I'm in constant contact with my supporters. I'm in constant contact with my friends in labor, in the municipal government and outside of municipal government. I know where they want me to run, and but they will support me in whatever office I decide to choose.
Have a lot of people reached out to you, just to say, hey, Mike, I hope all's well, man. Have you gotten phone calls after everything happened?
Yes, and
how was the support? How was the showing of support from people?
Everyone recognized what was going on. Everyone recognized the concerted assassination.
Right.
But they were fearful because, hey, man, we feel bad what's going on through,
right.
But that's not my fight because I don't want to get dragged in. And, I still keep in contact with those,
right.
That reach out. And, there was a lot of people, I want to let you know, there are a lot of calls and text messages that I didn't respond to. And to be quiet, I'm going to joke. I put my phone on Do Not Disturb, and I needed to check out, to decompress and assess, because the constant harassment, threat, intimidation, the undermining, the gaslighting,
right.
It takes a toll.
Sure.
And I'm not embarrassed to say that.
You shouldn't be, no.
But
I think you should say it because people need to hear that.
And I recognized that the betrayal came very close, and that took time. The signs were there, but
and I wanted to touch on that, right?
No, we're not going to touch on it, but
no,
I'm joking.
Well, I was going to say Zahi Jerris, he's your cousin, right?
Yes.
He and this is people are going to say this, he was the one that was part of your campaign in 2017 when you won. He was also part of your campaign in 2019 2021. When you lost. People say that, he was the guy that betrayed you, he, threw you under the bus, he's your, you don't have to touch on it or nothing, but this is, the people are talking.
Now listen, you got the bochinche, man. You got the drop.
Alberto called me the bonchinchero.
You got the drop. If anyone that knows is I'm not super religious, but I try to be spiritual and
right.
and part of reassessing, you have to forgive.
Absolutely.
Anger, hate is a heavy luggage, and you have to pay extra on it. When you're traveling, and if luggage is heavy, you have to pay an extra fee.
That's a good way of putting it, actually.
And part of that is I forgive. And by all means, there's of course many people who see the passion,
right.
The crucifix, and I'm not saying I'm Jesus or I walk on
water.
God,
they're gonna start saying blasphemy.
But there's a very powerful line, during the crucifixion,
right.
and I'm going to repeat it with humility, is where Jesus looks up, to the Holy Father and says, "Father, forgive them, for they not know what they do."
Right.
And call it for pure selfish. I forgive them.
Right. I mean, you have to. I've been in a situation like that where my own family members have done something to me that was very horrible, and I thought that they never do. And although I don't communicate with them, I don't hate them, right? I don't carry that hate, and you and I spoke today because we wanted to touch base before the interview, and I was telling you about me going through that and you having gone through this, and I said, Mike, as your wife, as hard as that was, and difficult and very traumatizing for your family, everything happens for a reason. I'm a very spiritual person, right? I wear my beads every day. Everything happens for a reason. And even though I went through that hell with my family, I came out in a better place, a place I never thought I'd be at. And I'm happy to be here. And I think if you don't already see that, I think that's what's going to be happening for you, or is happening for you and your family. I think you will come out at another place where it will be better than you were before, even though you went through that hell, but you're in a much better place, and an amazing place.
Yeah, I feel that. I generally feel that I'm in a better place. I'm in a better space.
Good.
And, I'm focusing on myself, which is something that I didn't do for a long time.
Right.
I'm able to concentrate on my wife, my children, my elderly parents. And there was some of the most basic things you take for granted.
Right.
For those who know, I have a law office on Yonkers Avenue.
And you are paying rent, correct?
Oh yeah, I'm paying rent.
Gotta make sure I got access, guy.
Yeah, paying rent. But my parents don't live too far from where my office is, right? A couple of minutes. And my life got so complicated that even going to go get a cup of coffee to meet with them in the morning, I fell out of that habit. And now, just reassessing and reconnecting. And when life gets complicated and when you really see what are the most important things and what truly matters, it's family and faith.
1000%. I agree. And this is why I'm at where I'm at. The same thing. I came to that same conclusion.
Same.
Yeah, it really is. We kind of went through a similar experience in that, and it did kind of make me realize what's really truly important. You reassess and you evaluate what matters most in life. I was always working, trying to get a dollar, and then we had this thing happen to us, and now I know my family is what matters. I don't care if I'm broke. Someone said, "Oh, you go." They wish me to go bankrupt. My whole family, they wish me to go bankrupt. I said, I don't care. If that's the worst that's going to happen to me, then I'm all right. I'm okay. Right? I got my family still alive. Somebody here, Mike is genuine liberal Democrat, not an Albany Republican hiding in the Democratic Party for political convenience. Someone said, great interview. Need SSI to raise a lot. Yeah, I don't know if you can the city council do anything about SSI?
No, rent is too damn high.
Yeah, well, we have to vote, folks. That's how we deal with it. We get certain individuals out so we can stop all this luxury craziness that's bringing up the rents, right? I like him. Met him at a job fair.
What's up, Ronnie? Appreciate you, man.
Is that his real name? I just always wondered that. Yeah. He's a good guy like Ronnie. He deserves more respect than what he is receiving, Maddie,
appreciate you. Thank you so much. Doesn't matter how they treat me. It's how I treat them.
Say their names. Say the bullies' names. God will carry you, Mike.
Peace and love, Maddie. Peace and love.
The will of God will only take you where his grace can protect you. Mike is there. I read that one already. Spano is taking care of his family first. They work for him.
Posible.
Don Nicky Boy, tenured boss of the Spano crime family, is obviously going to arrange for his demise of any contender to his baby brother's seat. And I don't know if you know Anthony DiMaggio. He is a former Yonkers police lieutenant who had his bout with the city, and he's actually been coming on the show. He's been coming on every Friday. We've already done 5 interviews. We're going on number 6 this Friday. So that's really a popular interview. A lot of people like what he has to say there. Freddie followers are smart. No, what up? That's right. Thank you. Freddie's grown because he's for the truth and the people. No sugar-coated BS on basement politics. Thank you. Looking sharp. All right. Looking sharp.
Me or him?
No, him. He's talking about you. Hi, Mike. Hi, Freddie. Hey, Catherine. How you doing?
Hey, Catherine. How are you? Long time.
Never let your enemies know when they are making a mistake. Yeah. Well, they don't know.
That's kind of like some Sun Tzu and Art of War.
It is, and I'm all about the art of war. You're right, because you have to keep everything, close to the vest. If you are weak, appear to be strong. If you are strong, appear to be weak. Art of deception. So
impose your will on your enemy, and you shall fight 1,000 fights and all that.
Listen, I've been using that recently, though, with this whole thing that's going on in the building department, and everything that I've been dealing with. It's all been Sun Tzu with me. All Sun Tzu. They think I'm crazy. But that's just an act, right?
Crazy like a fox?
Yeah. Appear to be crazy when you're not. Right? So that's what I do. But yeah, so, someone said hi, also hi to Renna. They said hello, Renna.
The boss lady. Come on, give her another round of applause.
How's the boss lady doing? How's she been doing? I said you can come on if you want, but how's she been? How's she taking this? It's got to be tough.
You know what? We been through a lot.
Yeah. A lot of love.
And that's what gets you through it.
Absolutely.
And when I thought, how is my wife going to handle this? How are my kids going to they were like just like total props, where they were like, stay focused. We're going to get through this. And as not only just as a couple, but as a family,
right.
We grew together. We got wiser together.
It brings you closer.
It does. And in 2021, I don't look at 2021 as my reelection. When I think of 2021, I think of that's in the spring, I lost my aunt. The following month and a half, I lost my cousin, who's like a brother.
Right.
A couple of months later, I lost a very dear friend of mine, and the worst thing any regime could do is kick somebody when they're down.
Right.
And the one constant that I had was my wife. And for that, babe, you just, I thought, that I uplift you and the kids. You and the kids uplifted me. Because I said it, and I think I said, I hope she heard, Lauren, obviously I wouldn't have been able to get through with you, but with you and the kids also. And what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Absolutely. 1000%. I believe in that. And I also believe in karma. What goes around comes around. That's guaranteed.
Circle of life, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I believe that very much. Mike Khader, I'm not their spokesperson. They've never paid me to be. They've never asked me to be. I've just taken it upon myself to do that. If I've ever come across like that, I'm just very like that. I'm aggressive. I do what I do, but they've never, and really, I just, I see something, I call it like it is. Someone said, Freddie, why you always, never say nothing negative about the Mike Khader? And I said, well, first of all, he's not in politics anymore. But what do you want me to say negative about him? That he wanted to pass an affordable housing of 20%, right? That he wanted to save the taxpayer money and not have them spend $500,000 so that the developers could become rich. Is that what you want me to say about him? That he wanted to pump the brakes, make sure that what was being done was in the best interest of the people of Yonkers and not those looking to come into Yonkers to make money. Is that what you want me to say? Because I don't know what else I should say.
Right. And I said, I want to appreciate all the public support, the private support, and being the cheerleader. But also,
I'm not a cheerleader.
No, but
I'm not a cheerleader.
Why not? You got no pom poms.
I don't wear dread. Joke. I get you. No, definitely, I understand.
But if we truly are colleagues and we want the best thing for our residents and our students and for homeowners and small business, I expect you to be honest with me and say, no, Mike, this wasn't good.
Right.
This was inconsistent.
Right.
I generally feel I had a good understanding of what the role of city council president was. I feel that I understood what governance requires. I understood what leadership was required to get things passed.
Right.
It wasn't about me, because, there's no I in team.
Right.
So many times, you would give your colleagues, hey, here's an idea, here's a legislation.
Just get it. It's all about getting it done. Right?
It's about results. It's
Right.
not about accolades.
Right.
So, in 4 years, 2 of them were, I was able to accomplish a lot with the colleagues. So I had a good understanding, always room for improvement
Right.
of what governance requires. I erred in the politics. But what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Right.
First time, shame on you. Second time, shame on me.
Right. And before we go, we're going to wrap it up. Looking back, what would you have done differently?
That's such an open-ended question. What do you?
Well, if there's anything is there anything that you would have done differently looking back? Maybe I would have did this way, or maybe I would have made that decision, or maybe I would have trusted this person.
I understand the question. I think that my votes and legislation I supported, while may have upset some people, I think that the governance aspect, I was proud of what I was able to accomplish and what could have been. I think that in the political shenanigans, I should have followed my gut. I should have seen the warning signs.
Right.
And the gaslighting and the critical manipulation and how people allowed interference with me and the colleagues and administration. I erred in the political nuances because of my inexperience.
Right.
I think that's my first thought, I believe.
Well, they say you live and you learn, right? And you have learned a lot. I would imagine in the past, we're a little over a year now, going through all this. I know I've learned a lot. Dealing with the Oxford, it's crazy. It's really crazy.
It's crazy. And
one last thing, you still got a lot to deal with. You got the investigation that you still have ongoing, and you're just waiting for some answer there. What's up,
You know what? Yeah, here's how I'm gonna go. And I want.
And really quick, I didn't say this. I saw the lease. I saw it.
I'm glad you said
I didn't say that. I wanted to make sure I saw it. He showed it to me, right? And I even said to Mike, but why didn't you just show it? Right?
Yeah. One, I was never concerned about the allegations, because in a matter of a day or two, I was able to put everything together.
Right.
And the decision to show or not to show, it was. They're going to find something wrong with that, right? Because this wasn't a legitimate inquiry. This was a concocted scheme,
right,
to undermine my credibility, because the political establishment and the regime and their operatives recognized, hey, you know what? He might not have gotten every vote correct, but his policies were consistent with his values.
Right.
And I think many residents saw that. If you are a homeowner, I fought for water rate. And what did operatives and the regime say? Keep water rates high. I fought for protecting restaurants and their, third-party delivery fees, for affordable housing, for, environmental issues.
Right.
This is all during a pandemic. There's no playbook to how to govern and lead during a playbook, but they developed this narrative. I could do no right. They could do no wrong. And that was the political narrative that they succeeded in. And I respect that. Well played, folks.
Right. And how did they do that? One of the people that they utilized was a gentleman by the name of Ron Matten. Ron Matten wrote the letter. And, how do you feel about that? Because I read that and I talked about it. So I had to ask you, do you have an issue, any animosity, or just like, it's part of the political game. People play a game and, it is what it is. I don't hold any grudges.
Well, Ron's a named defendant, so who was served?
But people say, well, maybe he didn't know what he was doing. I think he knew very well. But anyway, Mike Khader, I appreciate you joining me. And again, I didn't take an offense or anything that you went with Yonkers Voice first. I really didn't even. You got people who reached out for you from the New York Times, right? Big names, and you.
At the right time, when I decide I'm not going to have the regime or political operatives dictate the narrative,
right,
I'm going to dictate when and how to proceed. They're going to try to spin it, and I use the term the 3-card Monty. Remember back in the day on Fordham Road, you take the 4 train, and that's what they're going to try to do: confuse people and stuff. But we're going to stay focused. We're going to try this case in the court of law, not on any blogs or on social media.
Well, folks, there you go. There you have it. That's Mike Khader, former city council president. Before I let you go, is there anything you want to say? One last thing, anything to the folks of the city of Yonkers?
To all your followers and those listening in, number one, let's get it popping.
Oh yeah, you know what? I make that same mistake too.
There we go.
There you go.
Let's get it popping. And I just want to say, the last year and a half, I've been around. I did Unplug. I have my office. I have a successful law practice.
Right.
You ever need anything, you can reach out to Khader Law.
There you go.
May I give my number? 914-963.
Sure, absolutely.
914-963.
And you do family law, right?
I do a lot of so I am familiar with the CPS process and custody issues and divorce issues and stuff. I do litigation.
So there you go. That's very big. A lot of people deal with that.
And particularly in the more marginalized communities, they need the most help because unfortunately they don't have enough resources or the guidance to help them navigate the DSS and CPS whirlpool. Because once you get sucked in, I call it the whirlpool because it's just you get sucked into the system.
Right. And also being city council president, having that experience, I think you would make for a great attorney if anyone's looking for one, especially if they're dealing with family court or anything like that, or any other. What else do you law you practice? Just let everyone know what you provide.
I do real estate.
Really?
I do risk assessment for businesses, and particularly distressed businesses. Matrimonial law. I have a complete support staff. I can't handle everything on myself.
Right.
I have a complete support staff. And also, imitation is the best form of flattery.
Right.
I am creating a podcast.
Oh, okay,
Cool. That should be launched, by the end of the year.
Nice.
I've been in contact with, colleagues and representatives at the Department of State, USAID, and MEPI, talking about, from my overseas experience to see how we could help, in third world countries and stuff.
Oh, nice.
So when one door closes, they said others
Another
open,
one
and
opens
we
up.
come out
That's right.
stronger and better.
Absolutely, folks. Well, there you have it, folks. Mike Khader, former city council president. He's here. He's next to me. And he's strong and he looks good. You look good. You do. You look happy. He does. He looks very happy.
Thank you.
Wife looking good, looking very happy.
She keeps me on my toes.
Yeah. you have to, right? That's what they do. And so, you do. And I mean that because, I remember, after it first all happened, after the election and everything, I could tell where you were at, emotionally, the space you were in. But today you seem much, much different. A lot more happier. Like maybe this is like almost like, what? I'm glad this happened in a way, right? Because it's given me this time that I needed to focus with my family, maybe and kind of, connect there and really see what really matters, right? You probably, we as men too, we get so engulfed, and not that women don't also, but we get so engulfed in work, right? That we kind of forget, right?
It's important to constantly reassess, and sometimes, when everything hits you, there's something in the military, and when I worked with the Central Intelligence Agency, they always said they use the KISS mentality, something from the military, right? Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah, I say that sometimes. That's where it comes from. I didn't know. I just heard it before.
And what I did is not, when I put on Do Not Disturb, I didn't sit and wallow in pity.
Right.
I said, what's the lesson learned here? How can I improve? Because if I improve, I could teach to my family, and
right.
we improve and grow together.
Right.
And I am in a better place, and it's probably better I'm not in that cesspool on the fourth floor.
Well, there you have it. That's a great way to end it. I'm Freddie Vasquez. This is Mike Khader, former city council president of the city of Yonkers, where a lot's happening, man. It's been getting crazy. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're better off not being there. Thank you, folks, for joining us. We had a lot of people there. We got up to like 50-some people at one point. Thank you for your comments. Water rates are crazy. Taxes went up as well. CPS is criminals. Shots fired. Those are for your friends of Mike Khader. Yeah. Bravo, wonderful. Looking forward to your new podcast, Mike. There you go. See, we already got you people supporting. Who really represents us? We do. Basement Politics and Mike Khader, the two. We have a march yesterday about family court reform. Yes, they did. You are a family court attorney. How can we stop the abuses and violations of constitutional, federal, state, and states by rights by judges?
Can I answer that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Jose, thank you for your question. And many times, and I have the ability to do certain pro bono and represent people who are unable to represent an attorney. Right. And the ones that are most victimized are from the Black and brown community that don't know how to navigate the system and literally get railroaded.
Right.
One of the biggest issues, county government, they're in charge of DSS. And what they do when there's allegations of child abuse, neglect, drug abuse, domestic violence, anger management. I mean, pick your vice.
Right. There's
usually a service to help get it addressed. Even something as a forensic family study. So, many times, if there's a custody battle, right? Where should the child live, or one parent shouldn't get custody or access rights. So what the court does is they refer it out to appropriate agency. Okay, DSS, they call it COI, court order investigation, and they'll do a quick study. Right. If anyone's been involved in that, they receive the call from the caseworker where they do an interview. Unfortunately, there's not enough resources out there. The system is not broken. It was designed this way. And what I recommend for anyone that's ever had an issue in the family court is contact your county legislator. because they are the ones that fund DSS. And here's what your ask is. We need not more caseworkers. We need more resources to follow the caseworker's recommendation.
Right.
You know, even something as supervised visit. And I have a lot of colleagues in family law, matrimonial law. And Jose, so I'm sorry I'm giving you a long answer, but you know, you have to add context for those who have never dealt with the family court bureaucracy.
Consider yourself lucky.
You know, yeah, and you're lucky. So even something basic as like supervised visit, when allegations are made, sometimes a parent needs to go have supervised visit. That way, you know, they get a track record. They, you know, and supervise see what's the interaction between the, you know, between the child or children and the parent, and they'll prepare a report, you know, to the court. There's only in the entire county, there's only 2 people.
Really?
So you could just imagine the backlog to do a forensic evaluation. They're overworked.
Wow.
So the answer is it's not a city issue,
right? Because
the resources truly come under the DSS, which is a county department.
And the person I think you would want to call on the county, your county legislator, would be Christopher Johnson, who I believe is the chair of the DSS committee for the county of Westchester.
I wasn't aware of that. But,
well, I had to find that out.
But clearly he's not.
Unfortunately, I had
clearly
to find
he's not. You know.
Oh, we're waiting to get the citizen review panel for CPS. He said it's in the state. I guess we're waiting on the assembly or the senators. I don't know.
Families are falling apart.
You know what I say? Yeah, I'm telling you, this is what I'm saying. And the families, the people, we suffer. But guess what gets done? The luxury developments. Whatever they need, they get it. Zoning changes, you got it. We need the fire stations in the way, knock it down. Out the way. I'm Freddie Vasquez. Anything else in regards to that?
Thank you all, everyone. Peace and love. I'll see you around.
Thank you. I appreciate everyone who was watching tonight. Thank you so much. Man, we had a lot of people. That's actually broke a record. What do you do about corrupt judges?
I'm not even going to go down that avenue. You know, I don't know how to answer that.
I don't know, file complaints, you know, and it's tough because I'm sure people do file complaints and unfortunately they don't get heard.
You know, I'm fortunate where I appear before many of these judges and sometimes their hands are tied.
Yeah, sometimes the judges' hands are tied.
Yeah, sometimes, you know, the judges' hands are tied. I don't know. I don't want to get into the specifics about, you know, that issue. But, you know, if you're not happy with the judge, you know, show your concern to the attorney. That way the attorney could express those concerns in a proper, respectful manner to the bench.
Well, there you have it. And if you have any other questions or you would like to speak to someone about this in more detail or sit with someone who is an expert and will, you know, guide you through this process, Mike Khader can do that. Just one more time, maybe your phone number where they can reach you, your office.
Yes, 914-963-5529. And you can follow me on the gram at Khader Law.
There you go, folks. At Khader Law. Reach out to him if you have any questions. I'm Freddie Vasquez. Thank you, folks. I appreciate it. Have a great night. Be blessed, everyone.
Peace and love.
Told you. The real show, the real interview was tonight. I like to mess with people. Folks, this is Freddie Vasquez, Basement Politics Unfiltered. Thank you. Shout out to Inside Yonkers. Make sure you check out the page. Follow the page if you don't already. Inside Yonkers, shout out to my guy, Anderson Flan. Check us out on Thursday at 8 p.m. for another episode of City Talks. Once again, thank you, folks. I am Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics.